Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. It's a beautiful day on the mountain. We've had storms in Colorado. Some of you may have heard a little bit about that. Nothing severe near us, though. Burtonsville, Maryland. Hey, Miss Carla. So, you guys, you come from various places to join me on this. This is being broadcast to the Quilt Show Facebook page for one, my Facebook page. I know it pops over into YouTube with my Facebook page and also the Quilt Show Facebook page. There's lots of places to find this. And just as a reminder, once they're finished, they're there. So you can come back and watch anytime. I'm excited to share with you the progress as to what you've done and looking very much forward to seeing your quilts. I also have a special treat for you today. Um, I'm just going to keep that a secret because I've got two things that I want to share with you at the end. So you got to stick around till the end. I don't think today will be quite as long as we were the other day. I am watching all the hellos coming in and looking for any pertinent questions because if you are working on the quilt, the portal quilt, which is, I don't know which way to go, that one, if you're working on that quilt with me, you might have some questions and I want to be able to answer those. And so just watching a lot of people from all over, including the Netherlands. I love that. Nebraska had a lot of moisture. Nebraska had some, I think, some tornadoes. Colorado did. Oklahoma did. That time of year it is. I see some familiar names. It's great to see you guys. So, Joan, so no, this is not paper pieced. The project that we're working on is called Portal, and it's made with the Ladyfingers units. And so, for those of you that might be joining for the first time, perhaps this is a good time for me to just kind of explain to you what we're doing. Hang on. Just want to grab this. This is my portal pattern. And this was really designed with quilters in mind for a fun, easy project that could be artful, but you could make this with scraps. I made it with my hand-dyed fabrics for the quilt show. For those of you on the quilt show, or go to thequiltshow.com, thequiltshow.com, and you can get the pattern. You can get the print copy, which is exactly what this one is, or you can get the digital download so that you could have it instantly. So that's not a bad thing if you're wanting to get started. And a lot of us, we work digitally. I can't remember the last time I bought a CD because I'm using streaming services, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or Amazon Music. That's what we do these days. And that's why the Quilt Show has become such a popular thing because people just love to stream. We do Netflix and Hulu and Peacock and, all of those things. So we're kind of a digital world. I'm trying to look at some of these comments over here. Oh, yeah, Lynn, please tell Suzanne Marshall hello. I was with her last week. My very good mentor and cheerleader, Suzanne Marshall, will be speaking tonight at my home guild. Please give her a hug from me. I love her very much. And Gigi's having a devil of a time using the colors in the jelly roll anyone else. I can't blend them from light to dark. Gigi, I'm going to just say don't try to recreate my quilt. Try to make something that speaks to you with just moving the colors, whether you're changing. This is not a good example what I've got on the wall because I don't have them laid out. I'd like to do that in a minute. But maybe I could go from greens to pinks, or I might go yellow to green to blue and make them shift a little bit differently. So, and then I'm going to also encourage everybody to use your smartphone cameras because working on a design wall using your smartphone camera is a really, really great opportunity to see what's going on, make a picture, and then shift things around and try something completely new. I'm just wanting to see what don't want to miss anything. I'm hoping to diminish my stash with this quilt. That's awesome. Yeah, the ombre kit, you guys, there were 2 kits. One of them sold out. The quilt for the ombre is available. And I think I've got, yeah, here are those fabrics. And so you can see this is, of course, them folded and stacked, but ombres change from light to medium to dark across the surface. So it's not even a really true picture to show what's going on with that. But there are some ombre kits left at thequiltshow.com. I think that is available in a link down below if you just take a peek to that. Yellow to green to blue is exactly what I'm trying to do. Well, Gigi, I trust you to make that happen. And Gigi, don't hesitate to go into your own stash if there's something that's not working for, the exact thing. We, of course, the team here had to just go with what I've got in my quilt, and we had to go shopping just to find the fabrics to make the best kit possible. But don't hesitate to cut out some rectangles from your stash that might blend. You probably won't have to use much of that, but that's a reasonable idea to do that as well. Space themed. Ellen's doing a space themed quilt. I'm really excited to see the various things that you guys are doing. So it's really helpful right now for y'all to let me kind of see these major comments that are coming in. We appreciate you being a member. Carla, thank you so much. Gigi has said a really good thing. If you're trying to get the value, convert to grayscale. And if you take your picture on your phone, you can go to the edit and click on, black and white or monochrome, whatever that may be. And you can see what is happening on your phone in monochrome. So very, very good. Oh, good, Sherry, you got your quilt, your kit. That's fabulous. And yeah, so I work out the design on the design wall before going into pairs. Now, I think what I would like to do, let me listen on my stay. Yep. So what I would like to do is just share with you a couple of videos here real quick that just are reminders. And then I want to talk about working on the design wall. So there's one other important thing I want to share with you before I even show you that video. Someone said, Ricky, I was reading the pattern, and when you do the ladyfingers, so these little units are called ladyfingers because they're like they get narrow and get wide. That's the ladyfinger unit. I suggested in the last meeting to just press them to one side. The pattern says press them open. And I had to go back and think because I made this quilt in January of this year. So a lot of time has passed. A lot of water's gone under the bridge. And I went and looked, and indeed, I did press those seams open for these units. I need you to know that if you did press them to one side, because your teacher said so, you haven't screwed up. It's just fine. I mean, if it had been really critical, I wouldn't have suggested that. I pressed mine open primarily because when I'm joining them together, the seams that are open, I know I don't have to match to a locking seam. That's all. It doesn't make it any better or any lumpier, bumpier. It's just what it is. So if you are still in the process of cutting your ladyfingers and sewing them together in twofers, like right here, I've got them in little pairs, you can press those open. So I'm going to share with you that video. Let me share my screen and go to, I've got to go to full screen. All right, there we go. Oh, no, you're not supposed to see that yet. That's the wrong thing. Oh my gosh. Come on, Ricky, find it. Here it is. Whew, scared me for a minute. All right, so what I did is chain piece. I used a starter to get started, but then it's just a matter of just sitting and sewing and mindlessly sewing these all together with a slightly less than 1/4 inch seam. And I do that because, as we learned in lesson 1, I'm going to trim these to exactly 2 inches by 10 inches. So that needed to be really, really accurate And if I make my seam allowance a tiny bit smaller, it's going to hold together no problem. But also it gives me a little bit of a fudge factor to go back and make sure that I have trimmed everything exactly 2 inches by 10 inches. Now, these pieces were cut 10 and a half, so you get to chop off a little bit on the long, the long end, but you get to make sure that it's perfectly 2 inches. I'm going to discuss that for a moment. I had a teacher once tell me I would never have my students trim down. I'm going to teach them to be perfect, and they're going to get it perfect every time. I hate to say it, folks, but I can't be perfect, and I don't know how many people can be perfect over the course of a quilt that has these kind of pieces. I mean, maybe you can, and I would be very proud of you, but I want you to succeed no matter what skill level you are. And because this particular technique allows for flexibility, then I think it's just a lot more peace of mind to go ahead and just do this so that you trim them all perfectly. And that's going to be a help. So now, there they are all together. Of course, after you've got them all chain pieced, and I may have to do this 3 or 4 or 5 times because I'm just going to make a stockpile of little 2-unit ladyfingers. Go ahead and cut them apart. And I am going to show you how I went about ironing these. So just a little, I use a little spritzer. I don't use a steam iron. There's no real good reason for that other than I just prefer to keep a dry iron and not worry about the water. So I have a spritzer bottle, and I come in and just press that seam open. If you pressed it to the other side, it's no big deal at all. So if you want to do it open like I'm showing you here, you can do that with no problem. All right, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then I ended up making, because I'm not remaking the quilt for you, but I wanted to be able to make some of these and share with you exactly what it is that I'm doing. So let me now go back to got to find my computer. There I am, you're right, so you can see me. Now, I hope that you can hear me okay when I step back. I will talk a little bit louder, but I want to talk about positioning these on the wall. I can start playing with this now and just moving things to where I want them to be. And I don't necessarily, in my quilt, I don't necessarily care that I have a left and a right tilt and a left tilt and a right tilt and maybe another right and another right and then a left. It's all very random. But you may be working on one of the designs where you need to make sure that you've got your, in this case, narrow going to wide, and then you continue to create whatever layout it is that you visually want to happen. This quilt is totally random. It's just whatever happened. Now, not the colors, obviously, but as far as the tilt of these lines, I didn't pay any attention to that, except on the border, which I will talk about Monday on session 3. So I did pay attention to some things here, but basically my regular layout, anything goes. So if I want to push this around and I say I want to keep my pinks kind of together, well, I could do that if I want. I mean, if I want to make a hot spot of pink, I could do that and keep those together, find those pieces, move them around as you wish. And maybe I want to start switching into some golds. I could do that. I've got a pink setting right there, so maybe I will turn this one upside down and push this over. Let a little bit of dark come in. So you can see by just doing some rearranging on my wall, and notice that I'm not pinning either because I'm using a flannel wall. It allows me to get those things up there. So now I've just gone from something that looked very random to something that looked a little bit more predictable and planned, right? So you have that as an option. And I want you to continue playing with the varieties. If you did not see session 1, go back to the live video with the Quilt Show or Ricky Timms or on YouTube. That was on Monday this week. And you can watch that video to see where I discussed all of the different layouts that are possible. I'm going to pull these out just as I want people to have a visual, but I don't want to rehash everything that there is. So there are many ways to do the layout in this, and I'm almost there. And you can see how these could be possibly done in different ways with different layouts and so forth. So I've already covered that, but the design wall is what allows you to do that. Now I want to talk about my design wall. I want to talk about two things for you, my design wall and my ironing surface. You can see how big my design wall is. It goes all the way to the ceiling, and it's not even finished at the top. As the house was finished in 2018, and boy, if I had other things, other irons in the fire, I would have a piece of trim at the top up there. But this is what my wall is. On this particular wall, when I did the studio, I took a play from Libby Lehman's quilting playbook. And Libby, by the way, she's doing well. I've talked to her recently, and she's still doing well. She's no longer quilting because she's recovering from her stroke in 2013. That's been 10 years. But goodness gracious, she's doing great. But Libby, she used to use a product on her wall called Celotex. All right. So whenever they moved to a new house, she needed to create a design wall in her studio room. And her room in the studio was like many of you. It's a spare bedroom on a second floor or something like that. And so she went back to the big box home store and said, I need to buy some Celotex. And they looked at her and says, they don't make that anymore. It ended up being a carcinogenic, hazardous to your health, causing cancer. So that's no longer available. Well, she's like, well, now I don't know what to do. So she drove back home. You're going to love this story. She drove back home. She got her, those pincushion wristbands that you snap onto your wrist and you got your pins right there on your wrist. She got her wristband and she wore it back to the store, and she walked around the hardware store with pins, just poking it into anything that looked like it would be poked into. And that is so Libby. And she ended up discovering that you can use those acoustical ceiling tiles, and they're not expensive. And they come in 2x2s now. They also come in 2x4s, so that's feet. And you can take those and you could literally do what I did. I came over here with liquid nail and just a few nails, and I just put them on the wall. Yeah, I had to get out a saw to do the angles at the top. But the bottom line is, you don't have to do that. I could have stopped. If you can see a seam running at the top, I could have gone straight across right up there with no problem and just said, that's my design wall. No, I don't typically go much higher, but I decided I wanted the whole wall to be a design wall. But you don't have to do that. But I ended up putting that on my wall. Now, I will say I'm working on finishing out the trim. You can see it's got a little piece of trim there. My Celotex, or not Celotex, my acoustical ceiling tile is on the wall, covered with a huge piece of batting. Now, the batting may not fit either, but I can overlap it a little bit. And you can find, I think it's 108-inch wide flannel, whether it's white, gray, whatever you want. I chose white. And then I ended up putting that all on and used a staple gun to staple that over onto the sides. I know that that's extravagant for most people that don't have that, but the bottom line is the acoustical ceiling, if you use that, you can pin in it. And there are many times, as a matter of fact, the quilt that's on the wall behind me is pinned up there because it's not going to stay on a piece of flannel. But when I'm moving pieces around like you just saw, moving them around on that design wall by just using the flannel works really well. It allows me to stop, to take pictures, to sit in a chair, to study, to look. And I find that for me, studying and looking at my work is probably the most important thing to get the design that I want. Even on this quilt, how did I want to have one stick with another yellow, and how did I want things to flow? and I would shift and move things until I really liked it. So I'm not so happy. When I say so happy, I mean SEW. I don't need to get into sewing things until I really see how they're working. All right. Now, I see a lot of comments coming in that I don't want to miss. So, we have seen a second here. Libby's doing well. Yes, she is. So Eileen has said, would I, to get this effect, let me just read what she said. To do the focal in the center, would you do the blocks more up and down rather than, north and south, rather than east and west? Well, I want you to look in the pattern. Because the pattern shows you an option with it going east and west. That is not a bad idea. So, and then look how this one is a vertical with that light coming through the middle. There are so many different ways. And even if you wanted to make it more striped, you could do that. You could have a row of something and another row of something. There are so many variations. I realize I didn't know where I was headed when I was making this quilt. I just wanted to make something. So I started pulling these little blocks out. I ended up calling them Ladyfingers, and I made the quilt. But I do want to now give you a little piece of advice for when you're doing quilts kind of like this. And it may be your own quilt out of your own head. I teach a retreat called improvisation. And in that workshop, one of the things the students have to do is they have to come up with a unit. They have to come up with something they can make. It might be a wonky four patch. It might be a wedge of a triangle. I don't know what it's going to be, but I tell them once you've come up with that, you need to get into fabric and you need to start making these blocks, which is what we're doing right now. We're making these two ladyfingers side by side. Just make them. And they will make 6 or 8, and it will have taken them a little while. And they come to me and they go, this just isn't working. This just isn't working for me. I don't know where I'm going. I can't see any vision with this. I don't know what I'm doing. Now, I want you to imagine, okay, all of you, they're watching, I want you to imagine that I come up to you and I give you 8 Legos. Open up your hand. 8. And I say, would you please go make something with 8 Legos? And you're going to go over and you're going to just squish together a little box of who knows what the heck, right? Because that's all I gave you. But if I gave you a multitude of Legos, a big barrel and all different shapes and sizes of Legos, and I said, here it is, start putting these together, you would be able to create a castle or a horse or there's a billion things that you can make because you have enough of the units. So we as quilters, we like to sew and we have plenty of fabric. And if you got the kit, you know the fabrics are going to work. You just have to sew them together. And then once you've got them sewn together, this is where the design wall comes in. It's really, really, really important. Kathy's asking if you can make smaller ones. Of course you can. The reason I went down the path that I did is because I specifically wanted to try to create a pattern based on jelly roll. And jelly roll, to get the most mileage out of that jelly roll, I did 10.5-inch cuts so that it would work. So if you want to make smaller ones, that is absolutely no problem at all. Makes sense, Donna. Very, very good. Some of you are helping each other if you're on the same page. All right, I want to also show you, I'm having so forgive me, I would not normally answer a text, but we have a dog at the vet, and I need to respond to that text. So apologize, everybody. I want to just pop over to some pictures real quick for you. I want to show you that this is a tumbler quilt. All right, so Ladyfinger is a one-shaped quilt. This is a tumbler quilt. It's an antique quilt. And I want you to see how this particular maker offset the tumblers to create this kind of ziggy-zaggy swimming thing that's going on. And this is kind of what I'm hoping to see with the Ladyfinger unit, is that you guys will think outside of the box. Yes, you can make my quilt, but what else can you do? So let's look at another one. This is another Tumbler quilt that is really kind of set like a checkerboard. It is, it's nesting together, but it's darks and lights and darks and lights and darks and lights and darks and lights. There's no right or wrong to that at all. And then this is my Tumbler quilt where I actually did string piecing on the tumblers. I made this for the quilt show a few years ago on one of the episodes. And this is a Tumbler quilt. So it's based on the tumbler shape. I just did some string piecing, and by changing my fabric colors, I created something much more contemporary than you saw in the previous two pictures. All right. So I know what I'm going to do. I promised you a surprise. I'm going to do that surprise for you now so that I can tend to this. It'll only take me about 2 minutes, and I've got a 3-minute video that I want to share with you. This is what I wanted to share with you at the end, but I need to do it now so that I can take care of this little urgent matter with my dog at the vet. So let me pop over to... hang on, I can find it. It's so hard. Need to find my computer, and I want to go to here. So this is a little treat. This is a little surprise. This is a little personal story about Hugo and I and what's going on in our world right now. Hey everybody, boy did we got a story to tell you.
Yes, we do.
So our neighbor down the way, and when I say down the way, we live up on top of a mountain kind of, and she's way down like 1,500 feet lower. And so it takes about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to get there.
15 minutes.
And she has the horses you may have seen.
Yes, the pigs. She have goats now. And a cow now.
Well, now she has a cow. See, she texted and said, you know, could you help me out and help me get a milk cow? And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, maybe we could just buy a cow and then keep it down there, and she can take care of it, and someday she can buy it from us. So we started talking to the lady that had the cow.
Well,
I did. Yeah, I did.
You did.
But, and it was like 3 hours away, and I couldn't go get a cow. I'm getting ready to go on a trip.
No,
so.
You had all the class to do, and you couldn't do it.
But she's a really sweet cow. And of course, we're all thinking of names. You know, what can we name? I'll name her Buttercup. Or
First name was Ivy.
Ivy.
And then Poppy.
And with Poppy was a possible. Petunia was possible. But when we got her, when she finally arrived in the trailer, so it takes about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to get
15
there.
15 minutes.
And she has the horses you may have seen.
Yes, the pigs. She have goats now. And a cow now.
Well, now she has a cow. See, she texted and said, you know, could you help me out and help me get a milk cow? And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, maybe we could just buy a cow and then keep it down there, and she can take care of it, and someday she can buy it from us. So we started talking to the lady that had the cow.
Well,
I did. Yeah, I did.
You did.
But, and it was like 3 hours away, and I couldn't go get a cow. I'm getting ready to go on a trip.
No,
so.
You had all the class to do, and you couldn't do it.
But she's a really sweet cow. And of course, we're all thinking of names. You know, what can we name? I'll name her Buttercup. Or
First name was Ivy.
Ivy.
And then Poppy.
And with Poppy was a possible. Petunia was possible. But when we got her, when she finally arrived in the trailer, our friend said her name is Grace.
Grace.
And I like that name okay. And I thought, well, if that's what she's used to being called, I don't have to change the name.
Yeah, so it was Grace.
Yeah, and
then Gracie.
Gracie. So her name is Gracie, and she is cuddly. And I was thinking today, I have petted or touched cows, but I've never hugged and scratched on them and loved them like she is. She's just great. So we have a milk cow. We don't know if she's pregnant, which is important if she's going to give milk. But she's been in the pasture with a bull, a Jersey bull. So she's a Holstein. And we're just going to wait and see what happens. And maybe there'll be a little Gracie in the future. So
Hi, I'm Hugo. No, a little puppy.
maybe a poppy. I would love to have a little poppy. Oh, names are welcome. You guys can throw out your suggestions. So
Actually, I suggest to have name of a flower because it's spring, and so that's why we started choosing names. But you can pick one, and
so I named the big boar pig that she's got, and his name is Otis. And we just learned that the two sows are named Pocahontas and Cinderella, and the babies don't have any names, so we're naming them Baby Ruth and Butterfinger and Snicker and.
But there's one pig.
Yeah.
So
there was a baby pig that didn't do very well, so it was bottle fed, and it's like lives with the dogs. It's just thinks it's a dog.
And his behavior is like a dog. So he act like a dog, even if he jump like.
He does.
So I call him Babe.
Yeah.
Like the movie.
So up here on the mountain, we just got our dogs, but just down the hill, it seems like we have a menagerie, and we have Gracie right now. So there you go. That's the story, and we're sticking to it. Okay. All right. So that's what's kind of crazy going on in our world right now. Just a brief update. Rosie's going to be fine. She's at the vet. We had an incident and she's injured, and she was in pain all night. The emergency hospital in Pueblo, Colorado doesn't open till 5 p.m. because apparently emergencies only happen from 5 p.m. to midnight. But nonetheless, Hugo left early this morning to get her at our regular vet as soon as it opened, and she'll be fine. She's not life-threatening, but it's hard to listen to a dog whimper and cry when you know they're in pain. So just having to deal with a little bit of that today. But it doesn't stop the show from going on, you guys. And I know you're all fabulous, wonderful friends, and you care and you love all of these situations. And so I was wanting to share with you the story of Gracie at the end of our little class today, but I really needed to deal with that text right there. So you got a little bonus in the middle of your lesson. The other thing that I wanted to share with you today was my ironing surface. Now, I like ironing. I don't iron on a regular ironing board, and I don't for several reasons. They're made for clothes. They're made to work on ironing garments. That's the shape that they are. So I just use a regular piece of plywood or OSB, whatever you want to call that particle board. I cut it to whatever size that I think is manageable for me. I cover that with cotton batting because I don't want polyester to melt, and also because I then take like a heavy cotton, not a regular quilter's cotton, buy something a little bit heavier. And I would suggest that you buy enough of it that you can change that top out, once every 9 months to a year. So buy enough that you've got some in your sewing studio so that you don't have to run back to the store to get a replacement top, because it will get stained and it's going to get fusible on it and those kinds of things. But you just use a staple gun and staple it to the back side, and it's a piece of cake and it works great. Those are two things that I can't do without in my studio. A design wall, whatever size you can make, all right, for whatever project. Make it work. A design wall will change your life, and my ironing surface. Those are two really, really, really good tools. All right. So, and then somebody said, you're going to enjoy Gracie. We're going to enjoy Gracie for a temporary while, and we do enjoy getting down there. The animals they know our truck. They know when we're coming. The pigs come, the goats come, the horse comes, and now Gracie comes. So it is a little farm menagerie, and we're up here completely separated from them. So that's what my world is like. Sandy from Pueblo. Yeah, Rosie's at Bel Air Animal Hospital this morning. Small space, I use a stand-up restaurant adjustable poster menu to mount a flannel-covered thick foam board to see the pattern and layouts. You guys do need to read comments, because some of these are wonderful suggestions that will give you all kinds of ideas And so don't hesitate to go, rummaging through the comments on the classes. So here's where we're at with Portal, all right? You are making pairs. And now my goal for you between now and Monday is to not sew any of these together yet. Just move them around, take pictures, shift, try it vertically, try it horizontally. I mentioned to you in that first session that you've got the opportunity to make it into squares that kind of chase after each other, right? That's another option. Because one of the things that I'm most excited about to see when we have our final showcase in June, and that is going to be seeing the variety of options, the things that you've come up with that I would have never thought possible. And so I know I've already experienced enough creativity in the quilt world to know that you guys can come up with some amazing things, and I'm just trying to punch your creativity button to send you on a direction that allows you to do something that speaks to you, that makes it work for you, and the jumping off point just happens to be this silly little one unusual little shape. Yes, you can go this direction, but you don't have to. All right? Any questions or comments before I say goodbye today? Carla doesn't iron clothes. I love to press my quilting fabric, and I'm kind of the same way. I don't press my clothes except when I'm like having to go on stage or on the quilt show when we're shooting an episode. I didn't press this shirt today, that's for sure. Oh, great. So we got Sandy making a sewing studio. I also love seeing what everybody does. You guys, so the schedule will continue. Our third meeting on this will be on Monday, same time, same station, 9 o'clock. And that's my mountain time, so whatever time you're on. And then we're going to have like 2.5, 3 weeks before we get together, and we will send out some notices. Watch your Facebook pages. If you're on the Quilt Show newsletter, we'll let you know how to submit your images so that we can do a final showcase. Again, I do want to remind you that there are some ombre kits left, and those are gorgeous fabric. It's a steal of a deal, to be honest. It's $109 for the pattern and for 2 big jelly roll bundles. So that's certainly not out of line. And those are available at thequiltshow.com. We'll make sure that that sales link is in the comments everywhere so that you can go directly there and not have to go searching for it. Thank you. I will give you a report on Rosie. You probably saw just a snippet of a video that I'm going to save for Monday. Hugo and I are making some garden beds for vegetables, and which is why my fingers look horrible, because I'm out digging in the dirt right now, and the fingers are so dry that whenever I know wear gloves, but you can't wear them all the time, and suddenly I just dig in and my cuticles go crazy in the dirt. So excuse me for being such a mountain man. Okay. All right, you guys. Donis, go ahead and you can get that pattern. You can get it at thequiltshow.com. You can get a download or you can get the print. And if you want to get the kit, the pattern comes with the kit. So thanks for mentioning that. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to say goodbye. You're awesome. I love having you in my world. Thank you for being a part of it. And I will follow up with you on Monday. Okay. Take care. God bless everybody.